Well, hello and welcome to the MT41 Stone Creek North Rural Reconstruction online project meeting. I see we have some folks still coming into the meeting, so we're going to go ahead and give it a couple of minutes, let everybody join before we get started, and we will look to start the presentation around 12:02. Again, for those of you that are just coming in, we're holding for till about 12:02 to get started, as quite a few people are still joining in on the meeting. So we'll just have about one more minute and we'll get started with the presentation. All right, looks like we've got a pretty good group. So we'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome to the MT41 Stone Creek North Rural Reconstruction Project online meeting. My name is Brandon Coates and I'm with RBCI, and we were hired by MDT to provide public outreach and public involvement on this project specifically. And I'll be facilitating the online meeting here along with MDT. So during the online session, MDT and the project team members will be providing an overview of the project and talking about all of the planned improvements for this section of the highway. Following the presentation, we'll have a live question and answer session and be able to answer your questions there. In order to participate in that Q&A session, I'd like you to locate the button should be on the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. Click on that button and it should give you a box to type into and submit questions. You can submit those questions at any time during the presentation. However, we will hold all questions and then answer them at the end. The online session is also going to be recorded, and we'll have a copy of the recording posted on the project's website. So we invite you to ask your neighbors, coworkers, and friends that can attend today's session to go ahead and visit the project website, and they'll be able to watch that recording and get the same information. We'll post that website address at the end of the presentation as well. And now I'm going to turn the microphone over to the MDT Butte District Pre-Construction Engineer, Brandon Jones. Brandon?
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brandon Jones, the Butte District Pre-Construction Engineer. I also have here with me David Cunningham, the Butte District Construction Engineer. I just want to read MDT's mission statement before I introduce everybody. MDT's mission is to serve the public by providing a transportation system and services that emphasize quality, safety, cost effectiveness, economic vitality, and sensitivity to the environment. MDT maintains a staff with the resources and technical expertise needed to perform the workload for the majority of the state's transportation projects. I'm now going to introduce some of the project development team, as well as some district folks, and they'll turn their camera on and introduce themselves. So Rebecca Barbula.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Barbula. I'm the Butte District Design Project Manager, and I'm located in Helena Road Design. So my team is responsible for producing the plans and contract documents for construction, and then I'm responsible for managing the project's scope, schedule, and budget.
Thank you, Rebecca. Gino Oliva.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gino Oliva. I'm the Butte District Administrator, and I have my office here in Butte, and I supervise Brandon and Dave's groups.
Thank you, Gino. Patrick Cross.
Hi, everyone. My name's Patrick Cross, and I'm the MDT Butte District Biologist. My role is to work with the design team to minimize environmental impacts, ensure compliance with environmental regulations, and also work with Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks on any fish and wildlife concerns that they have.
Thank you, Patrick. Therese?
Hi, my name is Teresa Iwaniak. I'm the MDT Butte District Right-of-Way Supervisor out of Butte. I have a staff of 4 right-of-way agents that will be doing appraisal and acquisition for the project.
Sam Ulrich. Thanks, Therese.
Hi, I'm Sam Ulrich. I'm the Environmental Project Development Engineer. And I work on the NEPA portion of the project and coordinate permitting.
Thanks, Sam. Greg?
Good afternoon. I'm Greg Stewart. I'm a road designer within the Butte District, and I'm headquartered here in Helena.
Thanks, Greg. And Joey?
Hi, I'm Joey Barron. I'm here in Helena for MDT. I'm for the Butte District, and I supervise the design side of the project.
Thanks, Joey. I'd now like to turn the microphone over to Rebecca. She's going to tell you more about the project and give some specifics about some planned improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Giving some information about the project. So this project is located between Dillon and Twin Bridges. So MDT is planning to reconstruct over 7 miles of Montana Highway 41, beginning near the Stone Creek crossing and ending just south of the Point of Rock Cemetery. So this section of MT 41 was originally paved in 1959 and was last improved in 1985. A seal and cover, sometimes we call it a chip seal, was applied in 2011 to preserve and extend the service life of the roadway pavement. The roadway is narrowed by today's standards with 12-foot travel lanes and no shoulders. In addition, there's multiple hills and valleys on the roadway that cause a roller coaster effect and limit the sight distance. So this highway also has heavy truck traffic and an increased number of recreational vehicles in the summer, causing congestion and vehicle passing safety concerns. So some things that we considered in the design included improving the sight distance, which means how far a driver can see in front of them without an obstruction such as a hill, providing more passing opportunities, enhancing safety features, and addressing roadway departure crashes. And so MDT began developing this project several years ago. So initial work included gathering and analyzing data, performing field studies, and hosting a public meeting. So the information from those evaluations and the input from the public was carefully considered to develop the planned improvements that we're presenting today. So this project is now in the final design and beginning the right-of-way acquisition phase. So over the next about 2 years, MDT will be finalizing the project plans and permits, purchasing any necessary additional property that's needed to construct the improvements, and preparing for construction. So the current schedule suggests that the earliest construction could begin is in 2027. And construction is anticipated to take 2 full construction seasons to complete. So summer of 2027 through to summer of 2028. However, construction is dependent on funding availability and will be scheduled once design plans are finalized and right-of-way and permits are acquired. And speaking of funding, on the next slide, I'm going to share some information about project costs and where the funding for the project is coming from. So this project is currently estimated to cost about $36 million to construct. So MDT has acquired a $23.9 million grant from the Multimodal Project Discretionary Grant that comes from the Infrastructure for Rebuilding America grant program. So this grant is overseen by the U.S. Department of Transportation's Office of Secretary of Transportation. So costs beyond the $23.9 million grant monies will be funded through a combination of federal and state funds. And the cost share for that is just under about 87% federally funded and about 13% state funded. And on the following slides, the design team will talk about planned improvements and design considerations. So yeah, kind of as mentioned previously, Highway 41 is currently narrow with steep slopes on both sides of the road and limited sight distance. So MDT plans to implement several improvements with this project to enhance the safety features, such as realigning the road north of the Beaverhead River. We're also going to be reducing the vertical grade, that's kind of like the steepness, I guess you could say, of the hills. We're going to be adding 8-foot shoulders, adding shoulder rumble strips on those new 8-foot shoulders and replacing the centerline rumble strips. We're also going to be flattening steep slopes on the side of the roadway and upgrading guardrail and drainage. And I know I mentioned kind of at the beginning the realignment of the roadway north of the Beaverhead River, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more on the next slide. So MDT evaluated numerous roadway alignments alternatives north of the Beaverhead River Bridge. The top 3 alternatives that are shown on this slide were progressed for additional evaluation, where they were compared against several design criteria, including cost, constructability, logistics from design, maintenance, and construction viewpoints, and environmental impacts. So the orange alignment, which on the left-hand side on like the map view of the slide, it's located in the middle of the map view. And then on the table, it's the right column of the table. So that is the orange alignment, and it was chosen to pursue as the most practical and least environmentally damaging alternative based on the design criteria. So MDT teams involved in the design criteria analysis and evaluation included road design, which is my section, geotechnical section, which is kind of soils and roadway foundation, environmental, which is wildlife, wetlands, permitting, hydraulics, which is drainage, culvert drainage, and irrigation. And then we also had construction and maintenance. And I guess that's just to name a few of the various disciplines that were involved. So additionally, MDT coordinated with external agencies, so other sister agencies with setting the alignment and grade, including the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and other sister agencies. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Sam Ulrich, and he's going to talk about environmental impacts that we considered in our design.
Thank you, Rebecca. As with any federally funded project, MDT needs to ensure the project is compliant with the National Environmental Policy Act, often referred to as NEPA, and its Montana companion MEPA. Using the NEPA-MEPA process, agencies like MDT evaluate the environmental and related social and economic effects of our proposed actions. Agencies also provide opportunities for public review and comment on those evaluations and their findings. When a proposed action may significantly affect the quality of the environment, both NEPA and MEPA require the agency to prepare an environmental impact study. Most of MDT's projects, including this one, fall under a categorical exclusion. MDT's categorical exclusion form is basically a miniature environmental impact study. This project is being reviewed under NEPA. This review includes a few other important federal acts. They include the Endangered Species Act for the handful of listed species near the project area, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act for nesting areas on the underside of the bridges, Section 404 of the Clean Water Act for impacts to aquatic resources, including wetlands, and Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act for effects on historic properties. Additionally, other areas of consideration include wildlife crossings and recreational river activities. For this project, MDT conducted site investigations to look for potential environmental concerns and document the environmental baseline in the project area. Our analysis showed that the project should include specifications necessary to protect the environment. And I will now turn it over to the biologist, Patrick Cross, to talk more about proposed environmental features included in our design.
Thanks, Sam. So to minimize our environmental impact, in addition to the design features, certain construction activities will also have seasonal timing restrictions to avoid disturbing protected wildlife species in the area and ensure compliance with the environmental regulations that Sam mentioned. Some examples include for trout conservation, there will be no in-stream construction work during the trout spawning seasons in the spring and fall. And that's part of our Montana Stream Protection Act permitting requirements, which are administered by Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Part of the stream permitting compliance will also require that any equipment used for in-stream work is first inspected for aquatic invasive species before the project begins. For Migratory Bird Treaty Act compliance, any tree and shrub removal, as well as removal of the Beaverhead River Bridge, basically any place where birds might be nesting, must occur outside of the nesting season, which is from mid-April to mid-August. An exception could be if the contractor uses special methods of deterring nesting under the bridge, like installing nets that block access before the migratory birds arrive. For golden eagle conservation, there will be no construction activities or staging within half a mile of Beaverhead Rock during the winter through spring golden eagle nesting season. And that's to avoid disturbing documented nest sites and ensure compliance with the Bald and Golden Eagle Protection Act. So the project will also include some permanent design features to avoid or minimize our long-term impacts. And these include designing the new Stone Creek culvert to meet aquatic organism passage needs. So the new culvert will have natural stream bed material on the bottom, and it will also be sized so that the stream flow conditions inside the culvert are like the natural conditions upstream and downstream. To do this, it's pretty cool. The MDT hydraulics engineers use models that predict the velocity and depth of water in different culvert sizes under different stream flow conditions and compare that to what's essentially athletic performance data from cutthroat trout, making sure the water in the culvert won't be flowing too fast or too shallow for the fish to swim through. And we do call it aquatic organism passage, not just fish passage, because other creatures like aquatic insects, native freshwater mussels, and other aquatic organisms would benefit from this design feature too. Rebecca will talk more about the culvert later. Also for this project, compensatory wetland mitigation is required by the Clean Water Act for unavoidable wetland impacts due to the project. So in addition to the efforts by the project design team to minimize wetland impacts and even develop some on-site wetland restoration, MDT has also developed a wetland mitigation site at the nearby Beaverhead Gateway Ranch, which since 1997, approximately 118 acres of wetlands and open water habitat have been developed there to compensate for permanent wetland impacts from this project and other MDT projects located in the upper Missouri River Basin. So then in addition to these conservation measures and design features that are largely driven by environmental regulation compliance, this project will also include wildlife crossing design features that were developed through MDT's wildlife accommodation process. So MDT had adopted this process to address safety concerns due to wildlife vehicle collisions and to address road effects on wildlife mortality, movement, and habitat use. And the way it works is that every MDT project is first reviewed for wildlife accommodation needs and opportunities. And if recommendations are made, those then have to work their way through all the MDT bureaus for review and final approval. So approved wildlife recommendations for this project include, and can I get a slide change, please? Perfect, thank you. They'll include a wildlife path will be built under the Beaverhead River Bridge that'll be sized that it has enough headroom for white-tailed deer to get through. There will also be wildlife barrier fencing, and this is 8-foot tall woven wire fence that'll be installed on either side of the Beaverhead River Bridge. And the goal of that is to help guide wildlife to the path under the bridge. The barrier fence will also include wildlife jump outs, which are one-way escape ramps that let the animals jump out away from the road, but not jump in towards it. There will be wildlife guards, which are like double wide cattle guards installed at approach roads and driveways to help minimize the new fence's impacts on local traffic. We're also considering putting an experimental electric wildlife deterrent mat at the fence ends to prevent wildlife from getting into the fence section. And there's an example of one of these near Toston on US 287 between Three Forks and Helena that's been working for a couple of years. And then finally, for this wildlife barrier fence section, there will also be wildlife warning signs with flashing lights at the fence ends. Then, in addition to the wildlife barrier fence, there may also be some wildlife friendly fence. And this is a special 4-wire design that's intended to keep cattle and horses in while letting wildlife either jump over or squeeze under the fence. And that'll be installed in other locations as appropriate, as coordinated with the adjacent landowners. So now I think I'm turning it back to Rebecca to continue talking about some of the design features
Perfect.
in particular.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. So there are two bridges that exist within the project limits. So one of them is at Stone Creek and one is at Beaverhead River. So I'll discuss plan improvement for both of the structures. And I'm going to start with the Stone Creek Bridge, which is located at the beginning of the project near milepost 9. So I know Patrick talked about this a little bit, but we're going to be replacing the Stone Creek Bridge with a double cell concrete box culvert for both stream and livestock passage. So MDT completed analyses to determine, the culvert size that's required, as well as the location to align the stream side of the box culvert with the natural stream bed. And then the bottom side of the stream side of the culvert will be covered with gravel and natural stream bed materials to provide better passage for fish and other aquatic organisms that Patrick had talked about. And then the bottom of the livestock side of the culvert will be covered with dirt and gravel to match the surrounding ground cover. And now I'm going to move over to the Beaverhead River Bridge. So the Beaverhead River Bridge is located kind of near milepost 14.7. It's partway between East Bench Road and Beaverhead Rock Road, which is the road that goes up to the Beaverhead Rock State Park. So MDT is going to be removing and replacing the Beaverhead River Bridge with a new structure. So the new bridge is going to be about 181 foot long. It's going to be a single span design, which means that there are going to be no piers. And so this allows for improved movement and passage of wildlife underneath of the structure. Additionally, the new bridge will be widened to accommodate 12-foot travel lanes and 8-foot shoulders to match the rest of the project. And then the new structure will have a 75-year design life with steel beams, also called girders, and then a concrete deck, which is the driving surface that everybody will be using. And then the new structure will be built to the east of the current bridge, which allows us to use the existing bridge for traffic during construction. And I'll talk a little bit more about traffic control on the next slide. So the final traffic control plans have not been fully developed. However, we're moving forward with plans to construct some of the highway and the Beaverhead River Bridge to the side of the current highway to minimize impacts and delays during construction. So mostly from the Beaverhead River Bridge, I think it's about a mile or a mile and a half to the north where we're kind of off of the existing alignment. So that's where we'll be constructing the new highway adjacent to the existing highway. And MDT will require the contractor to keep access to homes and properties open during construction. There may be short times of short-term closures when new asphalt is laid in front of an access, but the contractor will communicate, with those property owners during those times. And then emergency vehicles will always be accommodated through the construction work zones as well. And we will have more information about traffic control and how to stay informed as construction gets a little bit closer. So now I'm going to turn the microphone back over to Brandon Coates from RBCI to talk about the next steps in the project.
Thank you, Rebecca. Yeah, as we discussed earlier in the presentation, we're currently in the final design and beginning the right-of-way acquisition phase of the project. So the design team will continue finalizing all the contract documents for construction and acquiring property that's necessary to build the project. And at this stage of the design, minor changes will be evaluated and negotiated with landowners, but major changes such as moving the alignment or adding turn lanes are no longer feasible. Once the plans are finalized, right-of-way is acquired, and the funding has been allocated, the project will then be let to contractors for bidding. Construction will be announced once the funding and bidding process is complete. And again, the current schedule suggests that the earliest construction could begin is in 2027. And with that, I would like to thank you all for participating in today's meeting and this presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and remind you now that find that Q&A button that's on the bottom of your screen, and go ahead and submit any comments or questions you have at this time. And as the public involvement manager, I am the initial point of contact on this project. So if you have any comments or questions at any time in the future, please feel free to contact me. My contact information's on the screen currently, and then it'll also always be on the project website as well. And as the project transitions into construction, MDT is planning to use a variety of methods to communicate with the public during construction, including updates to the project website, local news media, and social media. So please visit that project website to get the most up-to-date information as we get closer to construction as well. So I think we'll now begin the question and answer session. So Tyler, do we have any questions from the group so far?
We do. We had several. The first question was asked by Perry, and Perry asked how much property do we plan to acquire for the new construction on this project, and then had a follow-up of how many landowners will be affected by the needed acquisitions. Therese, did you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I answered it in the chat. So it's roughly 45 acres of either new easement or new right-of-way and fee. And that will be from roughly 17 landowners.
Excellent. Thank you, Therese. Our next question was from Dorothy, who asked, with the current administration's reductions of environmental concerns, will this decrease the environmental concerns that are being taken into consideration as part of this project? Who wanted to answer that one?
I'll go ahead and take it.
Thanks, Gino.
This is Gino. So MDT is committed to protecting our environment, and we will continue to take all the environmental concerns in mind as we move forward with the project. We're currently not aware of any changes to our processes, so we will continue as is for the time being.
Thanks, Gino. The next question was, Renee asked, what will the wait times be during construction when traveling to or from Dillon or between Dillon and Twin Bridges? Brandon Jones, did you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I have Dave Cunningham, our construction engineer, here with us, and he's gonna answer that one.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks, Dave.
So what we'll end up doing through that section, wherever there's construction going on, wherever it gets, where we remove pavement, it'll probably be down to 35 miles an hour. And then every time we get a location where we're actually gonna be stopping traffic due to single lane closures for construction, the maximum we can allow is 15 minutes. So that'll be the two considerations to take place when traveling through there.
Thanks, Dave. Ellie asked, any plans for under roadway wildlife culverts on this project? There are a lot of deer over the highway, she says. Who would like to answer that one?
I'll answer that one, Brandon. So for part of that wildlife accommodation process, there was an early stage of that process is what's called a wildlife accommodation recommendation memo. And so this project area was assessed. There are a couple areas in addition to the wildlife accommodations that made it onto this project that were identified as areas where it would be a need for a wildlife accommodation. And we even had a couple private landowners bring those up during open house meetings yesterday. But for whatever reason, they weren't able to be fit into this project. So those have been documented, and there could be opportunities in the future with standalone projects or working with NGOs or other groups to implement some of those projects in the future, but not with this particular project.
Thanks, Patrick. We had a question from Anonymous with the changes in the Washington D.C. administration, is the federal grant money irrevocably committed, or can it possibly disappear? Who would like to answer that question?
This is Gino. I'll go ahead and take that one as well. With the recent change to the DC administration, we're not aware of any changes currently. As they come up, we will find out, and I'm sure Brandon can answer. We're committed to moving forward with this project.
Thanks, Gino. Sharon asked, have you planned for the traffic use on Highway 41 from the end of the project or from the end of this project after the project? I'm sure there will be increased use on the part of the road from the north end of the project to Twin Bridges and the bridge at Twin Bridges. Is the reconstruction of the Ruby River Bridge being considered at some point? Who would like to answer that one?
I can probably handle that one. So on the northern limits of this project, we don't currently have a project nominated to repair or reconstruct the roadway past what's shown in the limits on the slide. But we will evaluate that section of roadway and nominate something if there's a need, certainly. And then let's see, increased use on the bridge on Twin Bridges. That bridge has been nominated and will be reconstructed. We don't have a letting date set on that one yet, as it's just recently been nominated, and I don't think it's been approved by FHWA for PE funds yet. But as soon as that project matures and we've developed some data around that nomination, that'll fit within our letting schedule to replace that structure entering Twin Bridges.
Thanks, Brandon. Cody had a question. He asked, will construction start at Stone Creek or the Stone Creek Road that is a few miles south of the creek? And Rebecca was going to answer that one.
Yep. So this project is going to start at the Stone Creek crossing, so near milepost 9. So there's currently a bridge at the Stone Creek crossing.
Thanks, Rebecca. And we don't have any more questions. We'll give it just a second here to see if anyone else has anything else to ask.
Yeah, and as Tyler said, we'll give it a few minutes to put your questions in, but if you come up with a question later that you didn't get answered, feel free to email me. My email address is on the phone or on the screen there right now. It's brandon@rbci.net, and I'll make sure we get that question answered for you. So again, all that information is found on the project's website as well. We'll post the presentations on the website along with the slides and a recording. So
I'm not seeing any more questions coming in. If anyone else has a question, feel free to ask now. Ellie said, thank you, everyone. Cody also said thank you and left some feedback. He said a recommendation would be having signage at Stone Creek Road for traffic entering the highway from that blind corner. The mine and landowners use that road consistently. And Perry also said thank you.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and say thank you to everybody that joined us today. And I think as we're concluding here, if we don't have any other questions coming in, you're free to go ahead and jump off of the presentation, and we will end it for today. Again, we have a 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock presentation to present the same information. So if somebody wasn't able to join that, please pass that information along to them and have them sign up for the open house on the project website. So again, thank you for attending.